let me move on to schools a little bit before and then more general questions. So, Wisconsin has a license to be a school social worker. It is not through regulation and licensing. It is through the Department of Public Instruction for the state of Wisconsin. You cannot be a school social worker in the state of Wisconsin without being licensed, and you can't get a license without a master's degree. So basically, you can't be a school social worker in Wisconsin unless you have your master's degree. So, unlike the state one, there's not a first level. The other thing is, if your whole life you just want to be a school social worker, nothing else, you're convinced of it, you know it, you don't have to do this at all. Because none of this is required for the license as a school social worker. So if that's your whole career, you never have to be licensed by or certified by the state, but just certified by DPI. So they require a series of coursework and fieldwork. You need to have 2 years of practice experience with children and youth. You can count field for this. So you don't have to get a job afterwards working with children and youth before you can go to school. So if you have 2 years of field work with children and youth, you've got that piece in that. You have to have 250 clock hours in the schools in your field placement. So basically, in our school, you have to do 1 year field in the school social work field unit and 1 year in any other children and youth kind of focused field unit. And you meet that requirement. There are 8 standards, 8 area standards that you have to meet. And all of our courses that you take in the children, youth, and family concentration meet those standards. And also, some of your first year courses contribute to meeting those standards. So between the professional foundation courses you've had and the concentration courses, you'll be fine, though there are some specific things. And again, on our website, there'll be a page which will show you all this. Oh, good. Well, maybe you can get it up. There'll be a page telling you how all the courses fit together. And if you follow that, so you do have to have something in the area of developmental disabilities, typically something in group work, assessing and treating children and adolescents, macro practice, and your first year courses come to mind off the top of my head. If you've got the courses and you've got the field work, you're eligible for the license. You have to do 2 other things. Is you have to take the Praxis 2 exam, Praxis 2, which is a national exam, and pass it. And you have to also put together what's called a portfolio. And the portfolio documents that you have what are called knowledge, skills, and dispositions to be working as a school social worker. And if you're in a school social work field unit, they'll walk you all the way through that, and they will, by the time you graduate, you'll have been able to complete the portfolio so it's ready to go. That, and you fill out a DPI application, and it costs you $100. And I sign off on it, and the university signs off on it, goes to DPI, and in a few weeks you get your state license. You have to go through the school to get it, because we are the ones that certify that your education was what was needed to do it. But that's not a big deal. Sometimes but both sets of, not so much the DPI license also, depending on your background, you have to read the requirements. You may have to also submit your fingerprints for a background check. Every state's different about that too. Every state's different about their school social work requirements. I think in Minnesota, up until recently, if you had a bachelor's degree, you could practice in school social work, but they had specific requirements for specific sets of things that the bachelor's person had to have. And at the master's level, you just had to have a master's degree in anything. in social work in any area. So again, every state will be different. Texas state history if you go to Texas. There's less issues with reciprocity. Usually you can document what you need for most states, what they require. So in for the state one, you have to keep fresh, and so you have to take, I think it's 6 credits in a 2 period of time, and you have to have, can be, some of this has to be at least 4 credits have to be in ethics and boundaries. And I'm telling you, as much as that sounds awful, one of the hearings, I not only hear people at hearings because they've been denied a license, but I've also seen people, I've also been to hear the attorneys talk about taking away licenses. And it is amazing. And I always listen for where people graduated from. Our students would never. I was at a meeting once with the head of regulations and licensing at the time, and I was trying to explain, I was trying to get the narrowness of the clinical definition loosened a little bit, broadened a little bit. And I was talking to her, trying to explain what generalist practice was. So I used this example that if I took her to the mall, to Easttown Mall with me, and we sat in the middle, and we watched all the people go by, we could begin to make assumptions about people we're seeing in the mall, right? We could see screaming children. We could see people, maybe they have holes in their pants and in their, not in a good way, not designer holes, but, cloth coats that are in tatters. We could begin to be thinking about who those people in the mall are, and be thinking about what we might provide to them, and be thinking about services that we either could give them, refer them to, or could create ourselves. And she said to me, "I don't want you practicing in the mall. I want you to stop sleeping with your clients." and so I lost that little battle. And I raise it because you cannot believe the number of situations that occur between master's prepared people and sexual situations with clients. It is incredible. That's why she said that and stuck me down. So part of the reason that's underpinning the constant ethics and boundaries is precisely that. Yes?
And that starts at the CSW level? Or is it at the
Any level.
As soon as you're certified, you have to start.
Yeah. Yeah. And in Wisconsin, the license is renewed every 2 years. And there's a fee which has been kind of flexible. It keeps going up. I think it's around $75 right now, and every 2 years.
It varies between your levels.
Yes.
But does that start then as a 2-year period immediately when you graduate, or do they give you, like, is it the same for everyone? So you
No, well, you know what? It's on a cycle. So it's wherever you pass your exams and get your first thing, you could be in the middle of a cycle, and so only a year later you'll have to renew.
But would you need, if that happened in the middle, would you need to quick earn all those in that year then? Or it doesn't, you don't have to?
No. What you...
Can I just say something? It's either 2 years, or if you in the middle of the cycle, it could be 3 years. So you'll be fine in terms of when you start to get your certification.
Yes.
6 credits every how many years?
In the 2-year cycle, this...
And it's not just credits, it's also continuing education. And
Right, sorry, it's CEUs, not, I said that wrong. Thank you. It's CEUs, 1 credit is 10 CEUs. So, and if you need, I've forgotten how many CEUs in total.
I think it's 20, 20 with boundaries and ethics included.
Right, and basically 1 3-credit course gets you there. Well, that's 30 CEUs, right? So 1 2-credit course. As long as it's ethics and boundaries.
Do school social workers actually need graduate level courses post-graduation?
No, they don't.
Okay.
There's a whole new, they used to.
Yeah.
Teachers and school social workers always used to have X number of credits they had to take, but that no longer is true. There are these career plans, these development plans, and it can involve a whole mix of things that go along with that, and it sort of picks It's not even directly connected to the portfolio you do here.
Got it.
It's a learning plan that will be supervised by the district and certain people in the district.
Okay.
And if you have to take extra courses or whatever, that will emerge there.
Okay.
It's not a hard and fast rule like it used to be.
Got it.
Yes?
So some of us attended like an ethics conference, and obviously it can't count because I'm not certified yet.
Right.
But if,
Right.
If we put down like, so say like it was 4 hours, how would they just send you back the CEUs? Like would they determine how many it was? Or?
So many conferences do
Okay.
determine and offer CEUs. And if they do offer it, you want to get it. You want that piece of paper. Nobody's going to ask you to give them the proof that you have those hours, those CEU hours, and in those areas, unless you get into trouble. If someone questions your license or you get sued, you may have to prove that you remain current. Otherwise, you just keep them in file, and then at the 2-year period, you throw them away and start over. So you should always, if you go to a conference and there isn't CEUs offered, but the workshops at the conference meet the requirement of some kind, what you need to do is make sure that you keep a copy of the program information such that it describes in exact detail what the thing is about. Also, who's the presenter. Generally, if it's someone with an MSW, in other words, they want someone who's qualified to present. If it's a colleague at work presenting something on ethics, that's unlikely to count. But when you go to a workshop or a conference, you're going to have a presenter. You want to make sure that's on the brochure.
And I think you mentioned about NESW has conferences every year, and they always include ethics and boundaries, and you can go into the conference, you can take care of your continuing education. No problem.
Easily, yeah, easily.
Is this a license or a certification?
License. The schools is a license.
So we're talking about...
I'm sorry, I messed up. Pardon me. This is for either or. Certification or licensure. You have a continuing ed requirement.
And it's renewed every 2 years, both of them.
Right. Right.
And if you take a term off and you stop working for, maybe you have a kid and you don't want to work for a year, can you count that low? Step back in.
So don't give up don't stop paying. Keep your license current, right? That's one thing, because then you'll have to retake exams and so on. If you stop working to raise a family for a year or whatever, if you can get to keep your continuing education going, that would be best. You might have to start over though if you can't. We've been some people who have some social workers in Iraq who've been deployed 3 times have missed the whole cycle. And their work, and it's kind of difficult. There's only so much you can do online. And so they are making some exceptions for people in that circumstance so that when they come back, if they quickly pick up some stuff, they'll keep their credentials. But otherwise, if you stop, you'll probably have to reapply, retest, and begin.
But there are no requirements for how much practice you can do.
No, it may be hard for a job,
Right.
but